What an amazing day this is. I hope you are doing absolutely fantastic on this day. I want you to do me a favor. I want you, number one, if you are not subscribed to this channel, what's up with that? It's absolutely free. That's right, it's free. Just subscribe and enjoy all of the content that I'm making available to you and for you. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell right there at the bottom of your screen so that you can be among the first alerted as soon as new material is made available for you. Don't forget to text, tweet, inbox, tell everyone you know they need to come and subscribe to this channel. The purpose of this channel is to give you tools, strategies, and insights for successfully doing life, doing love, and successfully leading in every area of your life. In this session, I'm going to pose a question that perhaps you've asked yourself, as I've asked myself internally a time or two. That question is, why am I so defensive? Have you ever wondered to yourself, why do I react the way I react? Why do I respond so defensively? More often than not, it seems to be my default reaction and response to everyone and everything in life, and I'm trying to deal with as best as I can how to deal with this defensive posture that I always seem to take on. I know it's unhealthy to a certain degree, but why am I so defensive? Defensiveness is a behavior that overwhelmingly indicates an individual's intense discomfort whenever they are poised or put in position to display their vulnerabilities, whenever they are put in a circumstance where they feel as if they have to disclose their weaknesses or discard certain boundaries, then it's a challenge. Because sometimes when you are defensive, which means at the core of it that you're in a place or in a position or in a conversation or in a relationship where you do not feel comfortable enough or safe enough with the other person or persons, again, to display your vulnerabilities, to disclose your weaknesses, and to let down certain barriers or boundaries you have established for yourself, purely out of the fear that others will take what you have disclosed to them and use it as ammunition against you and ultimately take advantage of you. Who among us likes to be taken advantage of? And so a coping mechanism or a protective mechanism that most of us tend to employ whenever we're uncomfortable, whenever we're unsure about our company, wherever we are unsure about the motives of individuals, then we tend to close up, clam up, because we've learned from past experiences that the more information about ourselves that we divulge, the more of our history that we disclose to individuals, then sometimes it comes back to haunt us because, again, people use what you disclose now as ammunition against you later. Because people who are defensive do not feel safe, nor are they convinced that they can trust you with their emotional vulnerabilities. And I know what that feels like. I've been there. I can recall some defensive moments in my own life where I could not express myself or I chose not to, again, because of fear, because of being pretty sure of the backlash or anticipating the backlash of being transparent and vulnerable enough to people who have not proven that they have the capacity to handle my emotional vulnerabilities. Because the reality of it is, ladies and gentlemen, some people can only handle you at your strongest. Very rarely are there going to be people in your life who know exactly how to deal with, handle, help you through those weak, fragile times that all of us will go through in our lives. We're not always strong, but to magnify the fear, it is that in my weakest state, you take advantage of my vulnerabilities. When you are defensive and you live from a defensive posture in your life, it means that you're always bracing yourself for others to attempt to perpetrate some injurious act against you. And you're always in a posture of defense, wondering and even consumed with asking yourself, what's their angle? Have you ever found yourself in that place? No matter how nice someone is, no matter how genuine their aura is, you're always in the back of your mind asking yourself, what's their angle? When you are defensive, you are always trying to anticipate other people's moves because you are only comfortable once you are convinced that you are always one step ahead of their intentions and other people's self-centered agendas. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, as prudent as that is, and as diligent as a process as that is, if you're not careful, you become so consumed with looking at what's wrong with people that you fail to see what's right with them. You become so consumed with trying to figure out their angle that you'll fail to recognize that they have been sent to genuinely assist you in your next level of advancement in your life, in your career, in your endeavors, whatever it is. Because what we must understand is that whenever you engage with people who are by instinct adamant about their stance of defensiveness, it actually reveals to you, if you are discerning enough and if you are intuitive enough, you can detect that their reactions towards you are a result of them having made to feel invalidated. Now, this is critical because most of the time, when I look back over my life and when I think about the moments and the junctures where I reacted or acted defensively, at the root of it, it was because someone prior, a relationship before, a conversation before my interaction with this person, has made me defensive because of how they invalidated me. Now, it's a tragic and terrorizing feeling to be made to feel as if you are insignificant and inadequate. This is when someone begins to communicate to you that your emotions are invalid, that what you are feeling doesn't deserve attention, time, doesn't deserve the respect of being heard and processed. But the reality of the matter is, you can become so defensive that it becomes difficult for you to properly process what's going on in your life and put things into perspective, not because of actual pain, but because of perceived pain. I wonder how bad they're going to hurt me. I know it's just a matter of time before they wreck my life, before they disrupt me emotionally. And so you become so consumed because of how defensive you are, because you are feeling being further invalidated by somebody that you feel you need to be validated by. Now, this is critical. This is why, for every individual that's watching me, you have to be in an environment that is healthy and promoting a healthy level of self-esteem. Because the more esteem you have, the less likely you are to be negatively affected by people's intentions to invalidate you, to talk down to you and make you feel insignificant, make you feel inadequate, make you feel inferior to them. Now, you have to watch it because there are a whole lot of people, whenever you start expressing how you feel, they'll write you off as you're being unreasonable or you're irrational. And they'll try to convince you that what you're feeling is not valid. Um, Stop feeling that way. Don't act like that. Don't think like that. Well, you can't tell me how to feel. You can't tell me how to think. Not as harsh, not as brash as most people attempt to do it, not realizing they're invalidating your feelings. Now, I want you to understand that all emotional invalidation is not just verbal, it can be nonverbal as well. As a matter of fact, one of the most dominant nonverbal invalidations is to be ignored. When you're trying your best to express yourself, explain yourself, you already have a hard time because you're already defensive because of how many people have shunned your feelings, have told you to suppress certain emotions, whether it was from childhood, from mom and them, daddy, stop crying. Don't do that. Don't have this reaction. And so you live your life most of the time with your emotions suppressed. And it's very difficult as it is to express how you feel to someone. But it's even more difficult when every time you try to express it, they tell you what you should be feeling, as opposed to hearing what you're feeling, helping you process it, helping you gain a better perspective of the matter at hand. Now, here's the reality, ladies and gentlemen. Invalidation is one of the most damaging of all emotional abuses. Now, the most disturbing reality about that is that some individuals knowingly will try to invalidate you as a form of manipulation, a form of control, and psychological injury, right? Because sometimes when people know that you need to hear you did a good job from them, no matter how many other people told you did great and oh, you were wonderful, they still don't feel confident. They still don't feel competent about themselves because they're waiting on the validation of somebody that they've made significant in their lives who seem as if their only job is to make them feel insignificant. You've made people significant in your life that you look for validation from, who only purpose in your life is to make you feel small and belittle you and make you feel insignificant, and they control you. That is psychological manipulation and control. When people say, "I know how to push their buttons," I know if I don't tell them they did good, they'll sulk. They might even consider giving up, ditching this effort, never even attempting to consider the notion that they can be something more than they are now. But I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that you have to seek your validation from somewhere higher than individuals who's a little tainted by their jealousy or their envy of you and the potential you. You think your fight right now is over, people's fight with you, an issue with you is over where you are now, but it's over your potential. It's over the next level you. It's over the evolved state of who you are yet to become. And you can't spend the rest of your life letting people invalidate you, make you feel inadequate, make you feel insignificant. You have to be in an environment, as well as you have to be the greatest proponent of your own self-esteem. You got to get up every day and look yourself in the mirror before you leave and say, you know what, I'm one of the baddest to ever do this. I've got the skill, I've got the gift, I've got the talent, I've got the ingenuity, I've got all the goods to do everything in life that I want to do. And so from this point on, hear me, you have to learn how to make irrelevant, tainted validations from individuals. You don't need it. You have to mature to the point that everybody's not going to like you, everybody's not going to appreciate you, Everybody's not going to cheer for you. Everybody will not root for you. When you go into life understanding that, then you're not so easily crushed by individuals who could support you but won't because of the psychological injury it would leave in its aftermath. I won't show up. I can't tell you how many kids I've counseled and told me things like, my dad said he's not going to show up at my game because I want you to feel what it feels like to have an absent father and nobody in the stands for you. And you have to watch these intentionally injurious individuals around your life who will try to manipulate you, suppress who you are, to the point where you start questioning whether you are or not. Because if one too many persons have the same opinion about you, generally, our mind tells us that we're wrong and obviously they're right. But at some point, you have to be daring enough to go against the grain, go against the opinions of other people who have this negative outlook about you. Here's what I want to tell you. You cannot allow other people's opinion of you to become your opinion of yourself if it is contradictory to what you know about yourself at the core of who you are. If you know you are great, if you know you got potential, all you're waiting on now is the opportunity. You are prepared. You're not just waiting on opportunity, but you're getting ready to create opportunities for you and for other individuals who have suffered these kind of intentional invalidating tactics from people whose own ego won't let them feel comfortable watching you go to places they never could go. The people that you thought should nurture you and support you generally bail out on you because they can't stomach the fact that you, of all people in the family, are the first ones to own a home, first ones to go to college, first ones to have secure financial stability in your life. But you have to decide very quickly that my worth, that my value will not be contingent upon people who are intending to be injurious to me emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically. I'm not going to allow them to stunt my growth or hinder my productivity another day in my life. Now, I want you to understand that I think it's beneficial for all of us whenever we begin to chart our behavior and reactions. We have the reactions we have when we feel someone is being a bit invasive or intrusive into either our history or our hurts or both. Now, let me give you that again because this is going to require that you do some internal investigating about yourself. Why do I act like this when I hear this? Because there are some triggers that will set off behaviors in your life that will be detrimental. In fact, your emotional state has been deteriorating and you haven't even recognized it. And that's the trick of the enemy and people who are injurious to you. They'll wear you down to the point that you don't even know that you're being depleted because all your effort and energy is going into being defensive, that you don't realize while you're being defensive, you are becoming depleted. And so you have to watch, be very careful of people who come into your life who have this, what I like to call an extraordinary interest in your history or your hurts. Generally, not all the time, but generally, it's a checklist for individuals who don't have the right motives and intentions for your life to know exactly where to hit you when they need to manipulate you or to control you. Now that's powerful. It's going to take a moment to digest that, but they get inside intel straight from the horse's mouth. That's why you got to be careful, even in relationships. Stop divulging so much. You know, this person did this to me, and then this one did the same thing, and this one did that. Because what it says is, I am now privy to what you tolerate. And because you tolerate it more than once, more than one occasion, psychologically you found a way to cope with it. So if I do the same behavior, create the same trauma, then it's not going to be a big deal because you already prepared for it anyway. And that's going to take some time, but I want you to understand that there are some things that should be off limits initially, right? Until you feel like you can trust the individual with your emotional, with your history, with your hurts, things that trigger trauma in your life. And so you have to have enough boundaries about yourself to tell people, hey, listen, I don't choose to talk about this at this time. If the time comes where I feel comfortable to divulge these aspects about my history or my hurt, then I will. But you have to know that you have more control over touchy conversations and subject matter that triggers your trauma. Because believe me, once people know what triggers your trauma, whenever they get upset enough, or whenever their manipulation tactics aren't working, or whenever you're not doing exactly what they want you to do, they'll engage in those touchy conversations that will trigger traumatic feelings. And usually what a defensive person does is they'll shut down. And sometimes when you shut down, it becomes harder and harder to reignite yourself. You told them about the trauma when your childhood, your father wasn't there, and you didn't have a father. And so down the line, whenever they get mad enough, they start saying something like, that's why your daddy didn't even love you. That's why he left you. That's why he walked out on you. And it further sinks you into a traumatic stupor that's very, very difficult to recover from. But ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that from this day forward, you are in control of the information you divulge to people that could potentially be triggers, cause a down spiraling effect on your emotional well-being, and cause you to relive traumatic moments of your life. Now, are there people that you can trust with your history and your hurt? Absolutely, they are. One of the side effects of being so defensive is that you write off the possibility that there are any good people left. I want you to understand there are great people left. It just means you have to be more discerning and less desperate, and are able to detect emotional perpetrators before they take such a toll on your life and start taxing you mentally and emotionally. Now, be careful, because when you are a person who is very defensive, and again, I know what that feels like. I was a defensive child. I was a defensive adolescent because, again, of certain traumas, certain pain points that I had experienced early on in life. And you have to be careful, because generally when you are defensive, you have a problem with critiques and criticisms. Now, that's something that you're going to have to challenge yourself about, because you can't really grow in life or get a gauge of where you are in terms of proficiency, excellence, operating at a certain skill level, if you're not open to being critiqued without feeling attacked. Now, I'll sit there for a moment. You have to get to the point of maturity, and you have to intentionally say, I'm not going to view every critique as an attack. I'm going to use the critique to my advantage. I'm going to use the critique and further accelerate my life. Because if there's anything that will make a person who's been emotionally injured, who's been traumatized through pain, early childhood, adolescence, disturbance in their life, it is when they're criticized. When somebody criticizes you, because they don't realize that beneath the surface, you're already having some esteem issues. You're already fighting with yourself and your self-imagery. And you're already saying to yourself, I'm not supposed to be here. I don't belong here. I'm not good enough. Let me tell you, you don't know how many of those conversations you have to fight through. But the key to it is not letting that internal negative critic have the last word. You don't ever go to bed with your internal critic having the last word about who you are, what you can do, and what you are capable of accomplishing. That inner voice will tell you, who do you think you are? You don't have enough education, you don't have enough collateral, enough cash, you don't have enough connections in your life. And you have to say to yourself that I am convinced of my gift, I am convinced of who I am, and I'm not going to allow my defensiveness. By default, I'm just defensive. But I'm not going to keep interpreting every critique or every criticism as attack. The thing that gives you the power is that you take what's being said, flip it into a positive, and use what they said as ammunition to do what they said could not be done. Wow. You have to use what they said as ammunition to do what they said could not be done. That's what you have to have in your mind every single day. I know I've grew up criticized, never was appreciated, never was adored. No one ever patted me on the back. No one ever said good job. You've grown up in environments where there was anything but nurturing. In fact, it was chaos all the time. And so when you've grown through those environments, you have to decide that I'm not going to live the rest of my life traumatized. I'm not going to live the rest of my life feeling like a victim. I am going to repurpose my experiences for my benefit. And it doesn't mean you got to deny it. I don't deny that happened. I don't deny they looked over me and chose the other sibling. I don't have to deny that my mother said I'll never be anything. I don't have to deny that my father walked out on me and said so long. You don't have to deny that. You have to, it takes a little while, but you have to embrace it and realize that somebody who was weaker than you would have died with the set of circumstances you went through. Somebody who was weaker than you would have snapped, crackled, and popped by now. Because what the enemy intended and what people who were potentially and intentionally injurious against you intended, that the drama that they took you through would leave you dysfunctional. But it didn't work. Doesn't mean it didn't affect me. Doesn't mean I'm not still working through a few issues now because of that. But what I have made up my mind and what I have been very diligent about is to not allow the traumatic drama of my life to result in me being dysfunctional the rest of my life. There are people now, if you told them a part of your story, they would literally gasp in the middle of the floor and wondering, how are you even walking? How do you even have the sense, the presence of mind to drive, to put your clothes on, to operate a business, to function in the world? Let me be the first one to tell you that you are stronger than you think you are. I say to people all the time that you're stronger on the inside than it looks to people on the outside. At any given moment, no matter what I'm going through, no matter how devastating life has been in the last chapter, I'm stronger on the inside than I'll ever look to you on the outside. But what you must refuse to do is to allow the drama of the traumatic past experiences to cause you to be dysfunctional in your present. I think that's who I have to talk to today. People, because, and I don't want to minimize it. I don't want to minimize what you went through at all. I'm not at all being insensitive. I'm not being cold. I'm not being callous. But what I am telling you is that you submit your power to your past whenever you allow it to make you dysfunctional, right? Some of the strongest people I know had the most devastating past you could ever imagine. There are people I know now that can hardly get through the first 6 years of their life without crying, breaking down. But they'll say, "Oh no, 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 no." That doesn't mean I'm not strong. I'm stronger than my past. I'm stronger than what I went through. But I refuse to allow the traumatic moments of my life to make me a dysfunctional individual. And so when you have one too many critics, you start realizing that critics are actually a telltale sign that you're doing something that no one else believed you could do. I tell people all the time, if you don't have critics, you don't have a future. If you don't have people criticizing you, you're not doing anything worthwhile. You're not doing anything noteworthy. If you have critics right now, then I want you to understand that you're on a trajectory to do something astounding with your life. If they are criticizing you now, it's a last ditch effort because they are under the impression that their voice still has credence in your life and over your actions and over what you do and what you become. There was a time when they said, "I don't like you in that black dress. You'll go run and change, put on blue." And because they knew how to trick you, they said, "You know what? I don't like blue." You go back and change the red. Now, you tell me what you don't like, that has nothing to do with me. It's irrelevant. It has no bearing on my actions, my conversations, or my future. Because in spite of how you try to wreck my esteem, in spite of how you try to invalidate my right to feel what it is I'm feeling or have felt, it doesn't mean that I need your validation anymore. I think that's the prison a lot of people have found themselves in, is because they have convinced themselves that I can't be anything if I don't have the validation of this person. I said it to you before, but I want to reiterate it and say it to you again. Sometimes we have made people significant in our lives whose only job is to make us feel insignificant. So you'll never get the applause you think you should get from them. You'll never get the attention from them that you think you should get from them. You'll never get the support from them that you think you should get from them. But I want you to understand that you have to maintain this internal drive you have. You have to maintain the consistency, the push that you have for a better life, a better future, that you have for the kind of life and the lifestyle that you want to live in your life. And you have to decide that I am no longer going to let my default defensiveness stop me from doing something exceptional with my life. They got to be careful because one of the moments where your defensiveness will certainly raise its hand. I'm telling you from personal experience. I know this. Is that when you feel or sense being rejected, whenever the possibility arises or you have an inkling that something you want or somebody you want can potentially reject you, then your default defensiveness kind of kicks in. Whenever we feel that us being rejected by someone we desperately want to be accepted by, we become defensive as a protective tactic to prevent any further hurt, any further damage. Let me see if you're honest. Have you ever wanted something or somebody and then you realize that they may not want you and then you start convincing yourself, well, no, I didn't really want it anyway. No, it wasn't a really big deal. I thought I wanted it, but I don't. Just to minimize the hurt and to lessen the effect of the disappointment, right? And so consequently, whenever you're disappointed one too many times, you stop trying, you stop attempting, you stop pushing, you stop trying to go forward, you stop trying to go after what it is that you want, only because your defensive mechanism has kicked in and said, we better abort this mission before we look stupid, before we look crazy. And so if I'm when I this defense mechanism kicks in. I'm the most defensive when I'm criticized or somebody's critiquing me, especially those critiques I didn't solicit, I didn't ask for. Have you ever noticed people give you critiques you don't even have to ask for them? They'll criticize you without your permission. Not only is it criticism and critiques that generally begin to trigger this defensive mechanism I've had, but it is rejection. When I'm rejected, then I get really, really defensive. But it's when I'm abandoned as well. When I'm abandoned by people who swore their allegiance to me, who pledged their commitment to me, abandoned by family members, maternal, paternal, father, mother, sisters, brothers, close friends, confidants. Whenever you go through this abandonment, there's no question that your defensive wall that you may have built is the result of the commitment that you have. Watch this, to protect you better. People, why are you so defensive? I've never said it out loud, I don't think, to anybody, but as I'm thinking about it now, when people say, why are you so defensive? My internal answer was to protect me better. The question that is usually the point of reflection is, why could I not see coming what was coming, right? The reason I have up this wall, the reason I'm so defensive now is because, again, I've incurred some injury I didn't expect. I was rejected. I was abandoned. I was overlooked by people I thought for sure I was going to be accepted by. But now in the aftermath, I'm interrogating myself, wondering, why couldn't I see coming what was coming? Was I really that naive? And so you got to be real honest with yourself to get to this level of intimately interrogating yourself. Was I that blind that I couldn't see what she was doing the whole time? Was I really this naive and love struck that you had no clue that he was setting this in motion, to leave in its wake hurt, defeat, devastation? Was I so desperate that I chose to ignore all of the warning signs? Now, maybe you haven't gotten to this level of honesty or intimacy with yourself to ask yourself the hard questions. But life, if you don't want the recurring experiences, life will make you ask yourself the hard questions. Like, what was I thinking? Why did I keep ignoring the warnings? I knew they were there, but I said I didn't see it. Have you ever been there? I saw his pattern. I saw how he moved, how he operated. I saw his mannerisms when certain things happened. I saw it. But why was I so blind? Why did I intentionally look away? Why did I keep ignoring the warning signs? And so because you ignored the warning signs, consequently, as a consequence of the unfortunate occurrence of you getting hurt, you just intensified your defensiveness, right? But what that does is shuts you off from living. Other people left you for dead, but now you're going to finish the job by stopping yourself from living. Nobody can speak to you. Nobody can say hi to you. Hi, yeah, whatever. Get away from me. And you shut yourself off from life and experiencing the kind of love, honor, respect, adoration that you could be having, but you are more defensive now because someone left you for dead. They thought you'll be emotionally erect, you'll be dead, you'll be no good for anybody else. In fact, you said it to yourself. I'm not doing this again. I'm not trusting anybody again. I'm not loving anybody again. I'm going to just be by myself. Well, who really wins? Right? Who really wins in that scenario? And so you have to decide, I'm not going to allow my defensiveness, my intent to protect me better, to have me walking around dead, like a dead man walking. I don't want to engage with anybody. I don't want to talk with anybody. Everybody wants something. Everybody's got the same angle. Just gonna be a matter of time before I figure out what it was. But you spend so much time figuring out what's wrong that you never take the time to investigate what could potentially be right about this interaction or this engagement with this individual. When you are defensive, and so I want you to be able to communicate this to people who come into your life, and they notice, wait, you're a little walled, you're a little tightly knit and tightly closed. And you have to honestly tell them, yes, I am defensive. And you don't need to feel embarrassed or bad about it. The reality of it is I've gone through some things that validate my emotional stance right now, right? And so in my effort to protect me better, because I let me down. Reality is I've let me down a few times, right? I, again, I saw the warning signs, but I ignored it. So I opened up access to my heart, to my spirit, to my emotions, to my mind, to my life, right? Unnecessarily. And I could have avoided, I could have bypassed some of that hurt and that injury had I been discerning. But you need to be able to tell any individual that's coming into your life, hear this, I need to be able to trust that you're going to be there for me. And until I'm at that point where I feel like I can trust that you are going to be there for me, then I'm going to maintain my stance of protection for my own well being. Because if life has not taught you anything, life has taught you that people come and people go. Man, that's a hard reality. Because there are some people you thought would have remained permanent fixtures in your life, but the moment they couldn't get their way, and the moment their manipulating tactics stopped working, and the moment you pulled the plug on what they were doing, they decided to get going. And now here you are getting this whole nother cycle. And you don't really know how many more times you can do this. You say it to yourself, I don't even know about this whole love stuff. I don't, it takes so much out of you. The hurt is devastating. And all of those are true. But you can't stop living. You can't stop loving. There is someone out there for you who is genuine, who is authentic, who is anointed for you, right? Nothing that you have to manufacture. Is just somebody that's intended for you. And so you have to be able to trust people. That's one of the things I tell everybody. I have to be able to trust you. Trust is paramount for me. People talk, but I'm more attracted to behavior. All right? I'm attracted to behavior. I'm attracted to how committed you are to keeping your word and doing what you said you were going to do. That's all those things are big things. Yeah, being fine, being cute, all that's great. Having money, having a successful career, all that's great. But at the crux of it, you need to be able to trust that the person is who they say they are, will do what they say they're going to do, and you need to be able to trust that someone is always there for you, just like you'll be for them. That's a whole nother issue, because one of the things that makes you afraid is that you're more into someone than they are you, and you'll go further for them than they would for you. And no one wants to speculate about that, right? No one wants to speculate about it. You want an unquestionable degree of assurance that someone in your life is there for you. Not for what you have, but for you. I'm here for you. And until you get that clarity, until you get that level of trust and understanding, then you have a right to protect yourself. Because after all, if you don't protect you, who's going to protect you? If you didn't put up the boundaries you did this last time, how much more devastating would that last episode have been in your life? And so you need to be able to trust someone. You need to say to them very clearly, I need to know that you are who you say you are, that you're always going to do what you say you're going to do. You have to have in your life Remember this, a secure attachment. Every one of you, and I pray that most of you already have it, but every one of us has to have a secure attachment in our life, which means that you have to have people or person, individuals in your life who are consistent, who are responsive, and who are validating. Let me give you that again. You have to have people in your life who are consistent, which means there's no vacillating with them. They are consistent. I don't care if we just had a disagreement, they're still consistent because those are fluctuating emotions. Yeah, just because I get upset with you don't mean I'm not going to come through and fulfill the commitment that I made to you. I'm going to be consistent. Whether I like something that they are not, you need people in your life who are going to be absolutely consistent. You can count on them. They are accountable. They are reliable. They are dependable. No matter if you can't count on anybody, like you know that person, I can count on them. In fact, their level of consistency will provoke you to raise your level of consistency. And that's what it's about in relationships. It's about expressing such love and commitment to the individual or individuals in your life, whether that's intimate relationships, mother, father, kids, grandkids, whatever it is. One of the most predominant, paramount aspects about any relationship is consistency. Can I count on you to be this way tomorrow, day after tomorrow? Because there are some people who have great facades. Oh, they'll be what you want them to be for a little while. They'll act the way they think you need them to act for a moment. But time reveals those who have camouflaged themselves in order to get into your heart, into your space, into your spirit, into your mind, into every area of your life. But I need secure attachments in my life, away with all of these casual, in and out, fling type of ordeals that my life has experienced. I need to have security at this stage in your life, in my life. If you hadn't figured it out by now, you're getting a little older. The older you get, you want security. You want to know that you have people in your life that you can absolutely count on. So I have to have people in my life who are consistent, but not only people who are consistent, but I need people in my life who are absolutely responsive. Because you remember earlier, I talked about some of the nonverbal invalidating methods that people use. One of them is to ignore you, is to blow you off. I say, oh, that's nothing. Stop. Why are you crying about that? Just get over it. You've heard people tell you that. You should be over that by now. Why are you still talking about that? Why are you still bringing that up? As opposed to respecting your right to have that feeling and making you feel like however long it takes, whatever we have to do, we're going to talk through this. I'm going to hear you. I'm going to make amends. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to make the necessary adjustments so that on my part, I will never, never, never infringe on your boundary or hurt you in the way that I did. So you got to have people who are responsive to you. People who are not only, who don't just respond to you when it benefits them, but people who are responsive in your life. People who will drop some things they're doing and say, I'm on the way to you now, right? And so that develops these secure attachments in our lives. People we know, I can just pick up the phone. They don't even have to hear the whole story. They just say, I'm on my way. They can hear it in my tone, my voice inflection. They can FaceTime me. They can look at my face and say, nah, you don't look right. Put your clothes on. I'm on the way over there. Let's go take a ride. Got to have people who are responsive to you. Watch this. Even when you can't fully explain or express to them what's going on with you. You got to have people in your life who are so closely knit, so closely assigned and attached to you, they can look at you and say, no, something's not right. Sit down. Let's just talk this out. Because you don't need people in your life who are only there because it benefits them, it prospers them. Reciprocation in any relationship means that I am responsive to you whenever you need me. Don't tell me I'm there for you whenever you need me, and then when I need you, I can't get you. That breaks the trust. And very rarely am I willing to re-entertain, reinstating your word as valid. So I got to have these secure attachments in my life, which means that I have to have people who are consistent. I have to have people in my life who are responsive, who don't treat me as if I'm an inconvenience. Isn't it amazing? I've had people call me at 2 in the morning and say, hey, this is happening. I got an emergency. Get right out the bed. Get in the car. I'm on my way to them. People have called and say, oh my God, this has happened. I've got a financial crisis. Don't worry about it. It'll be there in the morning. But then the same people, you call them at 2 o'clock and say, look, can this wait till tomorrow around 10 a.m.? Take the clue. When people treat you as an inconvenience, you have to be strong enough to treat them as unnecessary for your next level of your life. No, you can't treat me as an inconvenience. Not when I'm treating you as a priority and I am willing to do whatever is necessary to make sure you're good. You're in a good place, you're in a good headspace, that everything is going well with you, that there is no lack, no deficit, no deficiency. You need people who are responsive to you. Not only do you need people who are consistent, not only do you need people who are responsive, but hear me, you need people who are validated, right? You got to have people in your life who combat the ill intentions of people who are trying to convince you that there's nothing much to you. That what you think you are is just an over exaggeration of an overactive imagination that you have. You just think you're something. You ever heard people say that? He just think he all that. She just thinks she's all of that. Well, the reality of the matter is me thinking it is the prerequisite for me becoming it. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Not as a person who thought it one day and now today you no longer think it, but for the person who thinks it and keeps thinking it, who gets up every single day and say, this is who I am. This is who I know I am supposed to be. Because hear me, ladies and gentlemen, the greatest indicator of what you believe is how you behave. Now, I'm going to let that sink in for a moment. The greatest indicator of what you are believing about yourself is how you are behaving, right? And so you have to have people in your life who are validating, who are saying, that's what you are. Don't let anybody dissuade you. Don't let anyone around you try to convince you that you'll never be anything. You'll never be more than your mother, your father was. You'll never make as much money as you're anticipating. You have to regard them as irrelevant. In fact, you have to disregard them. You got to hear it, but your voice, watch this, your voice, your internal voice that's affirming you has to be louder than the outside voices that are trying to get you to ditch the notion of you being anything spectacular. I hope you are getting this. I hope you're getting this deep down in your spirit. Your internal affirming voice has to be louder than the voice of the critics, louder than the voice of the naysayers, those who have rejected you, those who are waiting on you to fail just so they can laugh, just so they can point to everybody and say, see, I told you he wasn't going to be nothing. I told you she wasn't going to amount to anything. But you have to have some validating voices in your life. People, watch this, because sometimes validating voices can be the most aggravating voices. Particularly when you've had a bad day, things that necessarily go right today for you, and you're listening to that negative internal critic and saying, "You're a fool for keep trying this. You're crazy for thinking you can do something like this." And everything seems to be lining up. And that person who's the validating voice in your life starts talking about, that was just today. Tomorrow's going to be something greater. Don't worry, by the end of the week, you'll have everything you want. And it aggravates us. But you need those validating voices in your life so that you keep victory in sight. You need validating voices in your life that tells you you're wonderful, you're special. When God gave you that gift, he knew what he was doing because you're operating in a magnificent manner with that gift. That you are incredible, you are amazing. And some of you are saying, well, what if I don't have those validating voices? You have to be a surrogate until they get there. Which means you have to get up and look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm among the greatest to do this. I'm gifted. I'm talented. It doesn't mean you're walking in pride because you know that you're gifted, that you're good at what you do. I mean, who gets up every day not to be good or great at what they do? Who gets up every day not to be good just so they don't sound arrogant? No, 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 no. You have to get up every single day and you have to be that surrogate, validating voice for yourself until they show up, right? So you have to say, listen, I was cheering for me long before anybody else started cheering for me. In fact, I can't tell you how long, how many years it was that I was cheering for myself before anybody even knew who I was. I can't tell you all the times I was saying, I'm going to be a best-selling author. I'm going to have books everywhere. People are going to buy and purchase my material every single day of the week. I was the one saying that. I had no audience around me. Nobody was in their back saying, yeah, you right, go for it, go. No, no, no. You have to learn sometimes how to play all positions. You got to be on the court and shoot the ball and score. You got to run up in the stand and cheer for yourself, then go back to the sideline and draw up a plan as the coach, just so you can recognize that your life doesn't stop because nobody is there to validate it. I'm still going to be successful. I'm still going to have money. I'm still going to have opportunity. I'm still going to go places that I only imagine in my wildest dream. Why? Because I am my own validating voice. I was saying it about me before you said it about me. And so if you don't have them around you, faith comes by hearing, and hearing comes by the word of God, which means that faith will come even if it hears me doing the talking. Now, see, that's going to change your life forever. It's going to happen because it's my voice doing the talking. I get up every day and tell myself, losing is not an option for us. We always come out on top. We are among the top earners. We are among the top educated. That's what I say to myself. I mean, that's before I go to a conference. That's before I'm going to a counseling session. I got people around me. That's before I'm in church and you got audiences and applauses and accolades. But what I found out, if you live for the applause of people, you will die from the lack thereof. You got to get up every single day, validate yourself. God's already validated your existence. He said, you have been fearfully and wonderfully made by God. Nobody else made you. God made you. So that's why you have to take your power back from people who think that if they don't do this, they'll ruin you. Or if they do this, they'll destroy you. You can't. You didn't make me. You can't break me. Right? I am convinced that I have been validated by God. And the voices that are assigned and ordained to me for this season of my success are going to be genuine. They're going to be authentic. Doesn't mean they're going to say what I want to hear all the time. Doesn't mean they're not going to have to fuss sometime. But it means that at the end of the day, they have my best interests at heart. And if I yield to those validating voices, then supernatural success is going to be your portion. So I want you to go throughout your day, even if you got to replay me and replay it and rehearse these principles in your mind, in your heart, until you recognize that I am somebody special. I don't have to live my life defensive by default. I'm always bracing. What's he going to do? What's she going to do? No, 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 no. You're depleting yourself of energy you could be using to embrace genuine, authentic, God-sent people into your life. I'm out of time for this session. I want you to do me a favor, though. I want you to share this. If you have not shared it, share it with as many people as you can. You can text a link. There's a share button. You can put the text link to the people in your phone and tell them to check this out when they get off work, or watch this tonight. You believe it's going to change their lives forever. Don't forget to go to my website, henrybolden.com. I've got some products there. Got some new stuff coming out next month that you're going to want to get. But go to my bookstore. You can get What's So Great About You in paperback. You can get it in ebook download. Also, there's a book of 50 quotes that I use, that I teach around the country. That's been really blessing people. I've been getting incredible feedback from it. It's called You Can Quote Me on This. It's an ebook download. You need to get that. I've gotten You Can Quote Me on This too. It's coming out in not long from now, that you're going to want to get your hands on. Don't forget, you can send your questions right there. There's a section on my website you can send questions to. Believe me, I go through them myself. I take this personally. I go through 100 every week of people who are questioned. After each session like this, you may have some questions, some comments, or even things you need a little more clarity on. Send it to me. I'm going to respond to it. Also, you can donate. You can give. You can support this channel. There's a donate section right there. People have been doing it from all over the world. I thank you. God bless you for everything that you do to support the work that we are doing literally around the world. All right. Well, I am out of time for now, and I really hate to leave you. But always remember, in part, and as I always say, that success has a formula. And I want to be the one that shows it to you. I'll see you next time.